an easy one. All right, everybody. Welcome back to the Spread the Positive podcast. I'm your host, Trent Denson. As always, man, I'm super excited about this episode today. We got a super special guest, someone that I've been following for a while. Finally got a chance to connect here recently. Been watching his moves and some of the things he's been doing. And just be honest, man, it's goals. It's stuff that we've been working towards over here at STP and all of our affiliate partners and some other stuff that, I just felt like a missing piece, if you will. So I got my friend, someone that I really look up to, even with our short amount of time being spent together, Mr. Nick Hyder. How are you, man?
Man, it's a pleasure to be here. And I tell you one thing, man, you got your brand message on point. So as a way to build your foundation and scale up, you got that part exactly right. So the future is mighty bright for you, I'd imagine.
Wow. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you, man. So, Nick, I know you wear a lot of hats. You're doing a lot of big things. You got quite the story. How I always like to do it is to take it back to young Nick, early passions, just kind of who you were as a kid, kind of what shaped you into the greatness that is Nick Hyder in 2023, man. So take us back to young Nick. What were some of your early passions? What was childhood like?
I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee, in a very happy middle-class household.
Nice.
My father was self-employed. Mom was a stay-at-home mom. Sports were a big part of our life, as well as music and church.
Okay.
So I was just like, most in the South in the 80s, man. It was, you made good grades. You said yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes or no, sir. You were active in your church. You served your community. And you probably played some sports on the weekend. And
Can relate to that.
They were. I come from a long history of baseball, of a baseball family, so that's been a big part of life. But went to school and on a baseball and music scholarship. Played professional sports for a few years,
Wow,
and then had to figure life out after that.
Man, that was quick. That was to the point. Okay, I love that. Concise, efficient. That's what we're about too. But man, let's unpack that just a touch,
Sure.
man. So I grew up similar way. Actually, super similar, if I'm being honest. Let's talk about team sports, man. Why is it so important?
Team sports are incredibly important because they teach you they teach you life lessons that you just can't get anywhere else, right? So baseball, the greatest player on planet Earth, is going to get out on offense 70% of the time.
Isn't that wild?
You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, it's crazy. You get paid as an individual contributor to your team, but all the goals are team related, right? So everybody wants to win the championship. Well, the player don't win that. The team does.
Exactly.
So and that's very similar in life. You get paid on your own, but a lot of your pay will be dependent on how great the company does as a whole, right? So when it comes to team sports, those two things just getting started that you can unpack from there are absolutely huge. But how you deal with failure, what you do next, learning to play well with others,
Literally,
yeah, learning to contribute. We talk learning leadership skills, great opportunities to learn leadership skills. And people ask me a lot of times when I'm explaining to my son's team about, what leadership is, you make everybody around you better.
That's it,
You know
man.
what I mean?
That's really it. And that comes from good coaching. I'm sure you had some crazy good mentors over the years that instilled that in you, because that's not something that just happens. You definitely got to be in the right spot. You got to put in the work, and you got to be coachable, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that's like a lost art nowadays. And not trying to talk bad about the youth or anything like that, or even my generation. Like we came up in the backyard playing sports and, going at it every day, getting better every day, coming with it to just, like you said, like you did your individual work for the team, man, for your brother beside you. I'm a point guard. I'm a basketball guy, but did play quite a bit of baseball too coming up. And it was just, there's nothing better than being with your boys, like
That's right.
just working, even small. I mean, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, we like nothing else mattered. Like our game during the week, like could make or break our week. And I think that's something I'm really grateful for. That opportunity to compete and to lose too. The failures are everything. So
The relationships, that's another big skill that that sports teach you. You know, just because teammates, I say it all the time. You know, I had a lot of great teammates over the years, and the coolest thing about teammates is once a teammate, always a teammate,
Exactly.
right? So I may
That's
not
facts, man.
sometimes I won't see them for a decade,
Right.
and then when I do,
Pick up.
within 5 minutes we're right back where we left off. It's crazy.
It really is.
And friendships aren't even that way. Like I think a teammate is different than a friend.
100%.
Like, you know what I mean? Way different.
100%.
Just because friends you share life with, you do fun things with, but teammates, it's like you share life and everything, but like you also share battle. You know what I mean? You share battle, and you show you don't necessarily work out and grow and train with your friends, but you do with your teammates. You
That's
overcome
facts.
things with your teammates.
That's so true. I could call 3 or 4 people that were on my 4th grade basketball team, and it'd just be like we were
That's right.
together yesterday. So I feel that, man. I really appreciate that too, because I think it's. I mean, I still to this day. You're a coach. I try to get out there. Me and a buddy of mine have been coaching a 7 and 8 year old coach pitch, serving those watermelons up, man. Just it's like yeah. And I've also had some dang near no hitter games too, which is that is not what we're going for. But man, it's so important, and I feel like it's getting rarer and rarer. A lot of just like mainstream stuff just gets pushed so hard, and some of these like really important things, like being part of a team and being coached at an early age, is not from your parents, not from that type of stuff. I think it's a lost art, man. But I'm very, very much a big fan of everything you just said. I think that's super duper spot on. So all right, so let's take it back just a little bit. You kind of just glossed through some pretty major moments there.
Yeah.
So let's talk about college ball. What was the process like with that, and then kind of how did you? I mean, you played in the major leagues, like you played.
I was a minor league player.
Okay,
so yeah, I was a minor league player, but I was in like the top 1% of athletes, of baseball players at my time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I went to Trevecca Nazarene University, which is local here.
Nice.
I did that. I kind of wanted to stay home at the time. I wasn't really looking to go anywhere. I wasn't looking to escape.
Yeah.
And also knew, my parents were awesome. They were amazing with the support, and I think I kind of needed that a little bit when I was
absolutely
taking that next step in life. But I went to Trevecca because they were offering a dual scholarship, but more importantly, on the baseball side, I knew I was going to get to play early.
Okay.
That's right.
Huge,
and as a late developer, and physically, like that was something that I needed to really, really do. And Ryan Gray was the coach my freshman year who gave me the shot. And then now Lipscomb Bison coach Jeff Forehand was my coach from my sophomore through senior years, which is unique because Jeff's father was my dad's coach for most of his career.
Okay.
When he played, so
That's
was
cool.
it was pretty neat how things went full circle.
Yeah.
But I learned another crazy thing about sports, especially when you're young and even in college. A lot of the greatest lessons. I told this to my son's team when we just wrapped up our season recently. A lot of the lessons I learned, I didn't actually get the effect and know how to apply them until maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, or yesterday.
I get that. Yeah.
To this day, I'm still encountering life things where I'm like, oh, I know how to handle this, and I can source it back to something that Coach Forehand told me in college,
Man,
and experience back then. So your coaches are amazing, especially if you get great ones young, because so much of your subconscious mind is programmed when you're really young.
Absolutely.
And that determines a lot of what you do next, and until you get more information and change your beliefs.
Oh, man, that's beautiful. Absolutely. Shouts to all the great coaches throughout everybody's life.
Mm-hmm.
It was that's beautifully said. All right, so you do the baseball thing. What was that next chapter like? What was next?
So I went and did the. I played professionally for. I was on a roster for 6 years. I quit on my own terms.
Okay.
I don't like the word quit. Actually, we don't use. I finished on my own terms.
Okay. There you go.
And at the end of the day, I didn't have any money.
That's fair.
I didn't have any money, and to maintain the apartment that I had in Nashville for the 3/4 of the year I was gone, and all the expenses that come along with that, on top of a car note, and then paying to live in whatever city we were in that we were playing in, that I was playing the season in, I didn't make enough money. And when I retired, when I finished, I was 27 years old.
Okay,
that's a that means my parents had been supporting me and helping me for that long. And the love for the game versus the being broke all the time and having to depend on my folks, kind of like the scale went more towards, all of a sudden the baseball wasn't the heaviest anymore. It was like, I gotta figure things out.
Yeah.
27 years old, I always wanted to have kids. At 27, I didn't. I hadn't started like dating my wife yet or any of those things. I was ready to just start life.
There you go.
And the craziest thing that I didn't know is the moment I retired and I was finished, it took me a couple years to figure out who the heck I was after I was done with ball. And
Yeah.
now, and this is a cool transformation, because when I look back at it, the first thing I did, I noticed like 6 to 8 weeks later, I realized I was putting on the exact same clothes that I did as a player. So really nothing's changed, except I'm just no longer a baseball player. I'm still doing the exact same things. I worked out the same. I did everything the same. I didn't make any changes. So the first thing that I did, if I wanted people to one, take me different and help myself take myself different, is I needed to give everybody a chance. So I changed what I saw in the mirror, which means they would also change what they saw. Right. So all of a sudden I used the physical appearance as a way to kind of show some change.
Love that.
Now, that was in 2007. It wasn't until around 2016 that I actually figured out an image that I wanted to kind of take moving forward. And I still kind of use a lot of that today. But it did. It took right at 10 years for me to figure out who I actually am, what's my purpose in this world, and how am I going to support my family, and what am I going to leave behind? You know what I mean? So almost 40 years old. I'm 42 today. So literally, like, it ain't been that long, man. Like, just like 6-7 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
That I actually figured out who I was.
Man, I feel that.
All the success that we have today. Now, you could say, obviously, a lot of the relationships that stem from the success, or that cause the success, and all those things were from very long ago. But in 2014 and 2015, we were dang near broke. At 2013, I was absolutely broke.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that long ago. So the cool thing is like, change can happen really fast.
That's right. No, I feel that 100%. There's a lot of, that's the hero's journey, right? That's what we're put on this planet for. And
everybody loves an underdog.
Hey, right. And it's just, and as men, let's just be honest, we're kind of dumb for a while.
Yeah. I still am.
I know, same. I was trying to give you some grace here, but man, I can just look back and just, like on my side of things, I was mad about a lot of things,
Absolutely.
A lot of this stuff is really confusing, even with, I feel like having kind of a blessed upbringing, and don't get me wrong, we definitely had our struggles, and there was definitely better times than others and all of that. But man, like, for the most part, my life was pretty dang good. 2 parents there, my dad's a really smart guy. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. So she's just always been there, and it's the biggest blessing in my life. Shouts to you, Mom. I love you.
Heck yeah. That's what I'm talking about.
But yeah, but that's something I've struggled with, and
you know why you were mad? Same reason I was mad. And it was because I blamed everybody else, and I was actually mad at myself.
Preach.
Right? So the moment that I took ownership and accountability for it and realized that, like, if I blame the other people, I can't change it because I gave up control.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the catch, is everything in life that's happened to me is it's my responsibility. It's because of me.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So, and it was there's a lot of great books that I've read, but what really taught me to take ownership in my life was it was in the 10X book by Grant Cardone. And I remember I was cutting grass at my old house in the backyard, and that was my quiet time and when I would listen to a lot of books.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out there, and he was talking about, if you get rear-ended, it's your fault, because you could have left 5 seconds earlier or 5 seconds later and avoided the whole thing. And I started really unpacking that a lot, and that was when I came to the conclusion, like, it's exactly right. And the moment that it's my fault, then I start finding ways to I start looking for solutions.
Right.
To those problems and those bad things that happened. And then all of a sudden, change started to follow, right? So, but every time I spent time blaming everybody else, That's all. There was no change happening because there was no problem solving happening because it was
Man.
all just pointing the finger everywhere else. So when you start from pointing your finger that way and you turn it around and face it in, that's when change happens.
Yeah, it's like those cartoons where the gun
Mm-hmm.
it turns all the way around.
That's right.
No, I feel that. That's something I've been really trying to do myself here. I mean, very recently, the past 6 to 8 weeks, even just very similar to what you just said, that extreme ownership. And man, so many times I can look back and just, I was not right. I'm thinking I just knew way more than I did.
Yeah.
Thinking this, I mean, why do people not get it? Like,
That's right.
do you not understand the greatness that's
Yeah.
in front of you?
Absolutely.
And it sounds insane to say that now, but man, it's like you gotta, and that, I mean, everybody goes through that. I think that's something that we shouldn't shy away from either. And being able to take these lessons from folks like you and people that have been way before us that have done the exact same thing and had these same exact experience, well, not same exact experiences, but similar situations and things that have shaped their life and to get to where they are. It's just like, it's just part of it, man. And that ownership aspect and the
Yeah.
accountability and the recognition of not deflecting anything, man. Like literally just taking it in, licking your wounds, getting back up and,
Yeah.
and doing it again, man.
Well, raising my son's 14, and it never fails. And again, my parents did like everything for me.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Same.
They're
Same.
awesome.
Yep.
And the greatest gift they ever gave me was in 2013. Their relationship wasn't the same as it was growing up, so they were more on separate paths at that time. But they told me the same message literally like within 48 hours of each other.
Really?
And I don't even think that they know that. And that was so the story that changed our life in business and finance and everything else, when my wife and I truly started working on something together was in 2013 when I started my insurance agency. But when I went to that, and that's kind of the foundation that started it all, right? But when I went to that interview about starting an agency, all I had to do to accept to get the agency underneath my belt and be ready to roll was the $350 that it took, or maybe it was $300 that it took to get the state licenses that are required to do any type of insurance. I didn't have it, and that was if I left without signing up for that course, I didn't get the spot. So I had to use the old go to the bathroom excuse, and I went to the parking lot and called my father and asked him for the $300 to start an insurance agency, and he said, "You can have it, but like this is it. Don't ever come back." And my mom, like 2 days later, guess what? Well, I spent my last dollars on that, and then we've got a young son at home that I'm not affording, like financially I'm not raising very well,
Man.
and a beautiful woman that deserved way better than I was giving her at the time, and so we're struggling a little bit. So what I do? Call mom. Mom, can I have a couple $100 for some groceries and pay a water bill or whatever? And she said, "Sure, this is it. Don't ever come back." Within 48 hours. So that was one of the greatest gifts they ever gave me. Now that was in 2013, so I was 32 years old. Had they have given me that at 27, I probably would have made the same changes. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So even now, as my 14-year-old son, when he's late for something or, "Hey, man, you're wearing the wrong thing," "Mom, why didn't you lay my stuff out right?" or something like that. It's always her fault, right? So we're in that transition now of, he'll be 18 soon, in just a few short years. And he starts, he's going to have a permit and be on the road in a year. This is a dude that's got to learn how to keep up with a wallet and keys and a phone and like learn how to gas a car and like what you notice in a car if it overheats and all those things that you just know to own a car. We're going to be working him through those things, and the biggest thing is going to be accountability. Like, now it's like, dude, what could you have done to avoid that situation? And he'll start telling me all those reasons. And that's the learning that we're trying to start early. So I think my parents were amazing.
Yeah.
The one critique I would have, and I think they would agree, is that maybe they held on, they supported me, like, not just like there's a way to support somebody without doing it for them. I think they did everything for me for too long.
Yeah. Do you have siblings?
I do have a younger sister who's 2 years younger.
Okay. What's that dynamic like, if you don't mind me asking?
She's awesome.
Yeah.
I always said she was the smart one.
Yeah.
and I still think that. However, we are polar opposites.
Okay.
Like literal polar opposites. We have a great relationship. She's awesome. She has a beautiful daughter that's my niece,
Nice.
who's her IQ is off the charts.
Nice.
But again, we are polar opposites, and we're in totally opposite ends of life right
Okay.
now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
her path's been totally different. She's divorced, and raised. So got a good relationship with the father and whatnot. But again, just totally different life paths.
Yeah.
And
Which happens.
she lives in Florida. I get to see her a few times a year.
Got you.
But we remain as close as we can.
That's cool, man. And I feel you. I'm just like, I feel like I'm talking to a version of myself. It's kind of wild, but that's awesome. So let's get it. So we're at that tipping point. You go all in on the insurance agency. So what was that? Is that kind of where that the real accountability and the ownership kind of started blossoming, or like what was the early days of the agency like?
So the cool thing about the agency, it wasn't cool at the time, was like you own a business.
Mhm.
So if you don't sell anything,
You
there's
don't
no
have a
revenue.
business, yeah. You
there
don't
ain't
really
nobody
have
to
a
pay you.
business, Yeah.
So
Excuse me.
bless you.
Excuse me.
So we did a so the one thing that we had though is from 2007 to 2011, we owned 6 different restaurants and nightclubs. So we learned how to market and promote, because
Okay.
if you didn't, especially in downtown Nashville at the time, the best promoters won.
Yeah.
Right. So as a matter of fact, you were competing with venues that hired promoters to pack their places.
Right.
So when we got into insurance, that was one of the first things that stood out, is one, nobody was on social media. Biggest reason is because of compliance.
Yeah. Right.
You know, they didn't really know how to do it. And like it was all their marketing was just totally opposite of ours, which meant that I could stand out.
There you go.
That's at the end of the day, that's what we always wanted. So, and my wife and I were blessed with a great network.
Nice.
So
Been here your whole life, and
Absolutely.
that certainly doesn't hurt the cause. So.
absolutely. So we started hustling, and we did great just because like we were able to generate leads faster than most people, because of our network and because of what we could do with social media.
Nice.
So
That was
again,
early in social too.
It was.
That was
It-
early.
It truly was. So the first year was pretty good. You know, we won, hit a lot of milestones and did a lot of great things amongst all the agents nationwide. And in 2014, like I never really wanted to do insurance. Like that was like, Tom Brady said it when he was talking about his draft story. You know, when they were getting into the later rounds, he was like, "Gosh, I'm not going to be drafted. I'm going to end up having to like sell insurance or something." You know, like it was a horrible thing. So, but what I learned too is that like, you know, what industry creates the most millionaires worldwide, and that's insurance.
Wow.
Okay, the reason is because of residual income.
Right.
Right. So in 2013, we did great, but like there was always these other things that I wanted to do, and a couple opportunities that I wasn't ready for popped their heads up in 2014. So I kind of like almost abandoned the insurance agency a little bit to try to do these other things, and they did okay.
What were some of those, if you don't?
Well, so I did we were big into LED lighting technology
Okay.
back in the day, and I got
Cool.
into that through digital displays.
Oh,
The big what they call jumbotrons
Yeah.
and stuff, indoor, outdoor. I built a few of those.
nice.
Outdoor billboards and whatnot. I had a company that did that. I went on as a partner of a AV company called IMAG Video that was really, really big in country
Nice.
music and stuff back then. We actually did a lot of the visuals in Sochi for the Olympics,
Sick.
the Mr. Olympia show, and a
Nice.
bunch of those. But the guy that owned the company at the time just wasn't a good relationship for me, and I'll just kind of leave it at that. So
Fair enough.
when I left that, it was right at the same time that the insurance agency the industry changed a lot in how you all of a sudden we could start crossing state boundaries. You started purchasing people's data, their names, phone numbers, email address, stuff like that, and marketing to them electronically that way, on top of the social media. So in 15, I kind of gave all that stuff up. As it was actually my pastor, Pastor Rogers, said, "Nick, like just get really good at one thing.
There you go. Man.
Build a foundation." So we did. We went with the insurance, except this time I brought my wife on with me as my business partner, and we did that because all of our clients loved her more than me, anyways. And it allowed me to start to focus on there was an opportunity to help other people launch their agencies.
There you go.
Right. So I was going to focus on that while she helped us service our clients, and together we would market and create more clients. And that was kind of how it happened. In 2016, we started launching other people's agencies with them.
That's awesome.
And, a couple hundred later,
Wow.
5-6 years later,
Wow.
after 2022, we had we had finished that part of our journey and wanted to do some other things. And that's kind of how we got to where we're at today.
Man, what a journey.
Yeah,
Wow,
man,
that's
cool.
amazing. Shouts to your wife. What's her name?
Rhiannon, just like the Fleetwood Mac song.
Rhiannon, man. Shouts to
right.
you. That's amazing. Isn't that song when you have that, like, that, what is it? Every good man has a better woman behind it.
You saw that in my office. That's her desk right next to mine.
Yeah.
That's on purpose. Everything we've ever built, she's right next to me.
That's amazing.
You know what I mean? Or I'm right next to her. That's we like to do everything together. That's kind of how we run.
That's special. Man, that's really
Absolutely.
cool. All right. So here we are, 2023. You got the Hit Lab.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk Hit Lab. Let's
do
talk
it.
multimedia. Let's talk virtual training. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you got your hands in a lot of different things. So are you officially all the way out of the insurance game, or
No,
that's
we still have our original agency.
Okay.
That was 100% ours.
Okay.
And it's still growing.
and it just kind of
Absolutely.
itself
We
almost at
we're
this point?
enrolling new clients, taking on new clients every single week
Okay.
still, just because of the network that we have.
Yep.
And the book of business that's so big, they're always referring
Yeah.
friends and family
That's
and
beautiful.
colleagues to us. So we still do that. And I'm the EVP of a merchant processing
Right.
company called Rack Financial that I took on that responsibility in December, really January of this year. And I'm really excited about that because of all the help that it provides to businesses. Most businesses don't know that they're paying way too much in processing fees.
Speaking
straight
of,
up.
I just saw that text when he said,
Yeah, man. Dude.
need to get that form
The
figured
cool
out.
part is if you're like sometimes you're in a great spot and don't even know it. Wouldn't it be nice to validate that?
Yeah.
And if you're not, how many other options do you have, and how much money can you save? So like I know my own companies where I was getting robbed
Yeah.
in processing fees, and I had
trust me, I
no
know, yeah.
idea. So I started out with Rack. I enrolled my own businesses in them, became an affiliate, utilizing the network, and then because we could bring in a high number of agents and affiliates for them, it was something to help build a sales force, which is what we'd done multiple times in the past before. So we did that, and then the Hit Lab is the studio that I built for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and the team that I built for myself,
Mm-hmm.
and people just started calling and asking if, hey man, we see your stuff. How do we get it? Can we use it? Can we rent the studio? And so on and so forth. So Jim, who's off camera over here, is one of my best friends, and at the time I brought him in as a hired gun,
Right.
because of his success in running things, and to help launch a business out of the team that was just built for me and the studio that was just built for me, right?
I love that.
And so that's what we're doing. We're having a good old time with it.
Yeah, you're killing it. It's some of the best content I've seen, and getting the full tour of the studio last week, man. It's again goals.
Well, likewise. I
Yeah,
mean,
I
this
mean,
place is incredible, dude.
Yeah, as always, got to give flowers to my guy Tom with TTM to the
Heck
moon.
yeah, man. He did it right, man. He did it right.
He's a beast, man, and he's insanely good at what he does. And yes, this place is absolutely amazing. But yeah, man. So what are the goals? Or I mean, we've talked, and actually, plug Rack a little more. Like, how can
Sure.
people get involved, and if there's like an STP affiliate thing that we can sneak in there real quick.
100%.
But yeah,
Man, so there's multiple ways to get involved. Obviously they can DM you, they can DM me. We can set you up with the link that you could have on. I have a link that can go in the show notes on this.
yes, please.
At the end of the day, it's about literally a less than 2-minute form fill just to jot form just to get the process started, and then the amazing team that we have starts asking questions like, you need a couple months processing statements so we can find out, how bad of a situation it is or good that you're in,
It's pretty bad.
and then what we can do from there. So, every company that processes anything other than paper money, there's a middle guy.
Yep.
That is between the business and the banks at the end, and Visa and MasterCard and all those companies, and that middle guy is basically a broker, and based on the type of business that you are, how you accept payments, is card present on file, like, there's underwriting that
Yeah.
most people don't understand when it comes to the fees that are associated with your business.
Man.
And at the end of the day, you want your processor, you want your Rack Financial to have the best relationships with the best banks, right? So I worked with more than one, and the reason that we have a flag in the ground with Rack Financial is because they have the best relationships with the best banks. And quite frankly, Rack Financial stands for Rebecca and Carrie. It's a husband and wife duo, and you're not going to find a better one.
Okay.
I promise.
Okay. Shouts to them too,
That's
man.
right.
I'm excited. I have there's a key component of all things STP. I call Rack 'em Up, which is random acts of kindness. So it's the same little acronym there. I think, right? Is it RAK?
It's RAC.
Okay.
But they're pronounced the same, so
Hey,
it'll work.
hey, we can play with that.
Yeah.
We can rack it up for rack or something anyway. But yeah, man, that's so cool, and yeah, that's huge. Definitely need to look into that ASAP. But getting back to HitLab, getting back to the multimedia side of things, that's kind of where we kind of have quite a few overlapping things that I'm super excited about, and think that there's just a ton of opportunity to collab and build and grow and scale, and some stuff that yeah, we just need help with. So
Absolutely.
so
everybody needs more and better content.
Facts.
And you're only going to get that by working with people who know what they're doing, or facilities like the one we're sitting in today.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's a reason that if you go on a Hollywood set, the tools that they use is not going to be seen in an everyday household.
Exactly.
Right. So you get the quality of what you pay for, and more importantly, like the people that are operating that equipment. You know what I mean? And their knowledge and expertise and the decades of time they've spent in the industry.
Yeah, these guys, man.
That's right.
Yep. It's amazing what folks can do, and my brain, not quite there, not quite the creative, but I can talk and do some cool stuff, and that's about.
I got my phone sitting here.
Yep.
You know, like the studies say that the average person is spending 5 to 8 to even 10 hours a day staring at that device.
Right.
So I firmly believe that, if you're not on there when they get on there, then
you're missing it.
They're going to lose their customers to somebody that is.
Right.
Right. So especially if you're in sales, a business owner, or just everybody should want to develop a personal brand. I believe your personal brand is your online reputation.
Yep.
There's two worlds we live in: the in-person world and the virtual world. And both of them matter, man. You got to have, it's great when people sing your praises in person, but if they're not doing it online, if they don't know the people that are singing your praises in person, how can they get those good reviews if they're not somewhere they can find them online and stuff? How do you constantly communicate with your current customers? In the insurance space, we have customers spread out over 33 states.
Wow.
You know what I mean? All time zones.
Right.
The whole United States. Which is crazy too, because my podcast, the audience is all 50 states and 14 other countries.
Nice, beautiful.
You know what I mean, and growing. So it's just how if you're only in person, your reach is only as far as you can go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
Yeah.
and you know what, you can't reach anybody when you're sleeping.
Right.
But online, it lives forever, man, and it runs nonstop.
Exactly.
So you got to embrace both sides.
Let's talk about the accelerator program. That's something I'm excited about. Talk to us about it. Where did it kind of originate, and what does that entail?
So it's basically my story. So when we were building the studio, here, let me plug Bradley for a minute. So I met Bradley in 2020, and we were sitting. He was sitting in a chair, and I was literally standing right next to him, and we're getting to know each other. And he says, "Let me see your Instagram." So I hand it to him, and he starts scrolling. He goes, "Well, it's all photos." And then I was like, "Yeah, man." He goes, "Why?" And I was like, "Well, we're doing great with static images." And he said, "How much greater would you be doing with video?" And I was like,
"Touche."
And I was like, "I mean, I don't know, man." He was like, "You want to find out?" So
what a pitch.
So, I built I started recording. I was doing a lot of coaching calls and with these agency owners and whatnot. So we just started literally with my phone recording stuff. The audio quality wasn't great. But and then I hired my first team member in Connor Adams, and he was my first editor, and he would make clips basically off of what guys like Brad were creating. So that was the model, right? And we started doing those, and within a week, we had videos up and running. And Brad told me at the time, he goes, "Hyder, that's pretty impressive. What you guys doing in the insurance space is impressive. You should come on my podcast." So I was like, "Heck yeah!" I was like, "But I'm bringing my wife with me."
Yeah.
So we went to Vegas and to be on Brad's podcast, Dropping Bombs.
Yeah.
And now, cool story about that. The day we're shooting the episode, my wife gets incredibly sick that morning. That was when we found out that we were having our daughter.
Oh, boy.
That's right. So
what
that
a
will
special day, man. That's amazing.
That will always live.
Wow.
But
that's cool.
we go to Brad's office, and oh, my goodness. It's like it was the coolest business space I'd ever seen at the time. It looked like it was a combination of like Apple's headquarters, Google's headquarters, and like Warner Brothers Studios.
Man.
Like, it's incredible. And we go in his studio, and I'm blown away. And you've seen my studio. It's like a mini version of Bradley's studio in Vegas. And so we go on that episode, and the moment that it drops, my social media just kind of like, my audience 10x'd overnight. And that moment right there, I was like, I got it. I finally got it. So now on top of the videos that we were just doing from all the just – because that was what Brad said. I was like, what do I record? He was like, just record what you're already doing. Right? And your team will go in and get it and put it out. He was like, be the content. Don't record content, be the content. And I thought, okay, cool. So we did that. Now when I come back and I'm like, I got to build a studio. So I got with my buddy Lance that was the former CEO and founder of Tour Supply, who does a lot of stuff in AV. I was like, I need to build a podcast studio. However, I can't have what I want it to look like Brad's, but I can't have the control room because I don't have the space at the time. I can't have the control room or all the people manually switching stuff. So like I got to do it. It's all got to be automated.
Pretty compact.
And so he was like, I don't know if you can do that, but we'll look into it. And about 6 months later, remember this is all through COVID. So 6 months later, we came to agreement on what we wanted to do. And it took about another 6 months or so to get it in because half the stuff was sitting on shipping containers during all that. So we get the studio rocking, and then it was still another 6 months before I launched my podcast.
Wow.
Just because I was figuring out how to work that sucker. And, and I probably waited a little too long to launch the podcast. I was like, Brad, how do you do that? He was like, well, the way I started is I just went in my office, and the first person I found, I said, come here. And he said, sit down. And that was the first episode.
Yeah.
So you met Dale, the super male.
Yep.
So Dale, that was the thing. It was like, hey, Dale, you busy? And he was like, if you want me to be, I am. And I was like, come back here and let's shoot a podcast episode. Dale was our first episode.
Wow.
It was called The Pilot. And we learned a lot from that episode. And then the first episode dropped on a Tuesday, and we haven't missed a Tuesday since in 2 years.
That's impressive.
That's good. Man. So the podcast is by far the sharpest tool in our tool belt from a relationship perspective, especially. The return on investment's immeasurable. But again, the reason that the Hit Lab started and all those things is, and going back to your question, the accelerator program, what I did in the beginning before I started my podcast was the accelerator program.
Right.
It was all that content, all those photos, and all those things we were creating. It just wasn't an efficient way to do it, and we didn't have the tools to do it. So when we started renting out the studio for other people's podcasts and other stuff, first of all, those people weren't going to be long-term clients for us with the direction that we're going. So a lot of the people that were clients when we first started are no longer with us anymore, and we wish them the best. But they weren't good fits for us, and we weren't good fits for them. So as we're looking very selectively who our podcast clients are going to be, Jim actually was doing some really cool stuff on the front end with the team on how do you market a podcast before you launch it.
Right.
Well, at the end of the day, if you look at what the accelerator program is and what a podcast starter program looks like, it's they're basically identically the same, right?
Right.
And what we found is just like me, I wasn't a podcaster when I first started shooting content. That was the gateway to get to the podcast.
Yeah.
So that's what the Brand Accelerator program is. It can last as long as you can. It's a 12-month deal, but it's an unbelievable amount of photos, high-quality photos and videos, and it only takes 1 hour a month to do it, and multiple scenes and everything else.
1 hour a month.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, and that's going to be, I mean, obviously the first, like you said, the first few, you got a little more coaching because me and Tom have been in a super similar spot, and a lot of people view this as a hobby, or they just have they have a great idea for an amazing.
Our profession's everybody else's hobby, right? That's a tough situation.
Tom looks so tired right now. I can see it. Oh no, man, we've been through it, man. I mean, it's the same exact. It's a very similar story, and we're experiencing very similar struggles, and I couldn't agree more. And when I was reading over just how y'all kind of put that framework together, and like you said, just commit to 1 hour a month. We're gonna build this out. We're gonna do it right, because a lot of people. I mean, I've walked quite a few people through this. Probably over 50 shows at this point that we've actually walked people through the process. Do you have a title, a general description, the artwork, the first few episodes, or do you have an outline? Do you have just a website, just all the stuff that you need to have, the social media stuff ready, to your point,
yeah.
And definitely guilty of just, I've also been the guy that's like, just rip off the Band-Aid and push record. So there's like this delicate balance of,
Yeah.
you know,
Quantity and quality.
yeah, 100%. But
Look,
man, yeah.
the stuff you put out, like if you owned a restaurant, you might have the best food inside,
Hmm.
but if the outside looks awful,
Mhm.
it's not the paint's flaking off, it's cracked. You need a roof. The bushes hadn't been trimmed. The parking lot's awful. You got, I don't know, a big biker gang hanging out
Sure,
front,
yeah.
flicking
Nothing
cigarettes
intimidating.
everywhere.
Nothing intimidating.
I'm not going in. I don't care how
Yeah.
good the food is.
Right,
I
right.
can't get past your storefront.
Right.
Well, that's what, when if people look you up online, what do they see is what you're putting out online on your social, especially if it's not as good as your business is, you're never going to get to prove that. You're never going to get to prove that. It's your digital storefront, right? So the first thing is, if the production quality of your content is good, which is what the accelerator program does, it gives these people the ability to go in and edit and post their stuff, and they got high quality, great looking stuff. What they'll find is that the amount of time that it takes to edit those clips, caption them, subtitle them, and then post them takes a lot of time, and that's where we find our podcast clients through the accelerator program because they're working on stuff. It's kind of like a natural next step.
It's like a graduation process. Yeah.
Because the hardest thing to do is get lots and lots of content. So you're looking for what sources do the content come from? Half of the content that I put out today and for the last year and a half or 2 years has come from my podcast.
Yep.
So my podcast is the largest source of high quality content that we get out, and on top of that, there's somebody usually joining me through a guest that's awesome in their own right.
Mhm.
And now we're collaborating online with these posts. So now my audience is 2 to 3 to 4 times the size, or
Right.
10x the size.
Yep.
On top of what we're putting out when they're shooting me just doing stuff. Like on the way over here today, Jim and I are just having casual conversations and having fun, and literally there's a camera rolling the whole time.
Right.
In the car.
That was
so
cool.
There's
I mean,
a camera rolling all the time.
I know. I think it's a Gary Vee approach. I mean, just film everything and be able to go back and chop it
The
up.
best stuff is not rehearsed. The best stuff
100%,
is
yeah.
off the cuff. The person is best, like displayed, like they're the best version of the people is when they're not trying to be something
Oh,
else.
100%.
You
Yeah.
know, so when they're just in their element, and when you can catch that on film, there's some great stuff that comes from
Some
that,
magic sauce. Yep. You're right, man. You're preaching to the choir here, man. It's so true, and yeah, it's what we've been working towards for a long time. And again, what did Jonathan say? He's like, I'm tired of people saying synergistic. He's like symbiotic or something. So
Yeah.
there's some symbiotic stuff that just like it's the and being in the same area and just the amount of potential disruption. There's
That's right.
so much room. There's so much room for the Nick Hyders, the Tom Gollies, the Trent Densons, the Jim Grays, all these people that, and I mean it's just there. Like they're the whole the abundance mindset stuff that we preach, and
Yeah.
the stuff God promises us. If you really want to get biblical with it, like we got to believe that, man. That's something
Mhm.
that I'm really trying to lean into here lately, and connecting with folks like you and just other pieces of the puzzle that continue to fall in place, man. It's got me super fired up, and we have, like, to your point, we have the resources to make you look amazing, and that's all
Absolutely.
it really comes down to. And this needs to go from like hey, I'm gonna be the next Joe Rogan. No, you're not. Just
Right.
sorry, respectfully, you're not. But and being able to just walk people through what that actually is versus it's a podcast out the gate or a video series out the gate, like that. I think that graduation process that y'all have kind of coined and framed with the accelerator program is a game changer, man. And I'm excited to kind of feed the fire with some of that. Got several people in mind that have already kind of expressed interest, and it's like, yeah, we need this. So, and that, I mean, the clipping and all the stuff that y'all got it seems like y'all got on the back end, just feeding the machine. That's what I've been making the comments for a long time. I want my full-time job to be saying yes or no. It's like, does this go through the STP machine, or do we need to kind of guide them in a different direction, and then just having the team in place to just crank it out, man. And that's again, seems like we're tracking towards similar goals, and it's exciting, man.
You know why people should start now is because, like, there's a saying in the industry that you got to find your voice. If it takes a lot of repetition to get good at something, So isn't it a little foolish to think that the first time somebody puts a microphone in your face and it points a camera at you, that's going to be good?
Yeah, I'm just going to kill it.
So you got to get started. But the cool
Yeah.
part is, Steve Jobs used to say, if you wait till it's perfect to release it, you waited too long. So when you're putting this stuff out, like the cool thing is you're going to get better.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is people can go back and see that growth and they can track it. And that's as powerful as wait until it's perfect to do it anyway.
100%.
It's way more powerful because that journey that they get to see and experience along the way, man, that's awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That's so true. And yeah, going back to some of the early STP episodes, man.
Oh, man.
Man, USB mic and a MacBook Pro, just to your point, just grabbing Dale or anybody that would, what's going right? Let's talk about some stuff that's working and just, pushing record and having a painfully bad intros,
right.
bumpers, outros,
Now,
all the stuff, man.
Jim would agree. Like now that we've established a certain quality, and again, we always started with the end in mind. Just like we use the GPS analogy all the time. The GPS works best if you get a specific, precise address location to get there, not just a city or something, because you don't know where you'll always end up.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
So when we started out with my podcast, it was like, here's the next stop that we're going to right now. So here's the end in mind, and here's the next stop, and then we're constantly working towards that. So. Again, it's not you go back and look at all the changes that we've made over time to the production, to the lighting, to the gear, to the equipment, or whatever. It's always to make it better and enhance.
Right.
It's to enhance the experience and it's to enhance the finished product. But most importantly, the people that use it, it's to give them a great experience, right? So like, yeah, man, like if you hadn't, like you should have started yesterday. The cool thing is though, is you're not necessarily late to the game. It feels like you might be, but you're not, because people are still just figuring all this stuff out.
And it's your audience, right? I think that's something that
you own it.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's something people get caught up in too. It's like, what are the numbers? What are the numbers? What are the numbers? Like they're probably not going to be there instantly. And I mean, unless doing the accelerator and doing the stuff to kind of, prepare better for that is obviously going to help the cause. But even now, like with the Spread the Positive audience, like it's still just been such a, I just never really cared I never got hung up on that, and I probably could have, it probably would have helped me to a certain degree to, dive into the analytics a little better. But again, just doing it and getting the repetitions, kind of like you're saying, like just, doing the reps, not being great at it for a long time, and not being great at it for a long time was part of it too. But just building your tribe and your people, and again, like the right shows that fit this network aspect that we're pushing, and the community aspect, and like all the networking that it's taken to get to where we can even offer this stuff and have these connections in place and be able to point to some like really impactful work that is the ultimate baseline for everything we do. And seems like very similar with y'all. It's like, if it's not impactful, what are we doing? Anybody can push record and make a great product, but what's the X factor? What's the why, man? So
it's funny, and you guys would probably have experienced this with your clients as well. Everybody thinks the idea of having a podcast is cool.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun. You know what I mean? Like it's going to be a good time. And then once they get into it, usually about the second or third episode, they realized, holy crap, this is a job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job. It's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And then they immediately go from, this would be cool to do, to all of a sudden, out of nowhere, with no audience, no network that's pushing it, or really anything, like, man, this thing's got to make money.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's got to monetize right now.
Overnight, yeah.
So
100%.
here's a little advice to all of the podcasters out there and the people thinking about starting a podcast, right? So your podcast ain't going to make money, okay? But if you use it as a way to network and build relationships, when I said you can't, my podcast has been, the returns have been unmeasurable because of, like, literally half the stuff I'm doing today is because of a podcast episode.
100%.
The owner of one of the Major League Soccer franchise here, the mayor of the late mayor of Music Row, Charlie Chase, who's in multiple Hall of Fames. Blaine Bishop, who's a Pro Bowler, and all those guys. Like, why else in the world would they come to my office and hang with me for a couple hours if I didn't have a podcast?
Can I pick your brain? You want to get lunch?
Huh? Oh, my
Can I
goodness.
take you to coffee?
We can do it right now. You know what I'm saying?
But
but
that's what people ask.
oh,
versus,
absolutely.
Hey, if you ask, do you want to be on my podcast? Of course.
Absolutely.
It's just kind of that stroke that ego a little.
We get to know each other. We're forever tied together on all the platforms that you run that podcast online, on all your socials. And man, it's like, I can't think of a better tool in the world to do something like that. So it's a big investment because relationships are the best currency. If you had to choose
100%.
between money or relationships, you should choose relationships, because if you choose money, eventually you're gonna have neither. You know what I'm saying? No relationships and no money.
I was talking about that earlier.
But with relationships, you're always going to have money, the right relationships, and that's why it's so important that you pay attention to who you hang with and who you spend your time with, and those are the right people. But all those podcasters out there, man, like, quit looking to monetize. Like, if you want to monetize your podcast, then spend more time on the production, the distribution, like how many clips can you get out of that podcast and get online? And then most importantly, who are your guests? Who are you talking to? And what can you do in the future with them, right? So we pick a lot of our guests based on the relationships that we can both benefit from, and work on top of the fact that the show's got its own brand now, and we have a responsibility to keep growing that and give the audience what they love,
Yep. Couldn't agree more. It's the most accurate thing that's been said on the pod here in a long time, especially about podcasting. But just every single thing that needs to be a clip. Speaking of a clip, just clip that up and play it every single time someone's like, I'm about to.
Everybody needs
millions.
a podcast.
Thank you.
Everybody needs a podcast. And you know what? Because everybody needs a personal brand. If there's two people that interview to work for me, and one of them has zero personal brand, and this person has a great one with a big network, this person wins because they're
100%.
immediately going to make an impact. You know what I mean? So your personal brand is something that you own that nobody else can take. If you want somebody else to own your podcast and pay you to do it, well, then you got to go get a TV station or a radio station or some network somewhere, or some studio to say, hey, man, we want to pay you to produce your show. And by the way, they're usually going to make a lot of money off your show, and they're not going to pay you for all the dividends of it. If they couldn't make a lot of money off of your show, they wouldn't be doing it anyways.
Right.
You want to own it. You
100%.
always want to own it. You want to own your life. And if you have a podcast, you want to own that too, which is why you should work with guys like you guys in the Hit Lab and everybody else, because you give them the tools and the knowledge to do that. And then it's up to them to take it wherever they want to go. The support system's already there.
100%. Preach.
Yes, sir.
No, it's beautiful, man. I know we probably need to wrap up a little, but I did want to ask a couple of the go-to STP questions. Spread the positive. It's in the title. Kind of always looking for that way to switch the mindset to, a more positive outlook, even on our worst days. We all have bad days. We all have really bad stuff that happens. What are some of your go-to ways to kind of flip that switch if you're a little down and out, or if you're struggling with something? What are some of your go-to ways to kind of get back in that more positive, optimistic mindset?
Well, you got to feed your faith first, okay? There's a hymn that we sang in church 1,000,000 times. It's called Count Your Many Blessings. Name them one by one.
There you go.
See what God's done. So first of all, you can't be in a bad mood if you're grateful.
It's impossible.
Impossible.
Yep.
And the small and what you focus on grows. So if you're focused on the problems, they grow. If you're focused on solutions and things that you are grateful for, they grow. And every problem that's put in front of you, man, like God has put that problem there so that you, one of God's tools, can figure out how to overcome that problem. Because when you overcome that problem comes knowledge that you didn't have before, which you can spread that knowledge and you can help others with that. But that's how you grow as a person, is you overcome more and more and more and more. And then you start to become grateful for all the things as you had them. So like, I might not have been grateful for the last almost year that we've been doing a great big renovation on our house.
Sure.
With all those things. However, like, I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to do it, that we have the tools to do it, that we're able to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for all the things. So instead of being upset that there's 10 people that I don't know very well at my house every single day, Monday through Friday, and some weekends starting at 7 a.m., you know what I mean? And there's a mess, and a dog comes in and with mud and everything else. Like, I'm grateful for, one, the relationships, but two, I'm grateful for the experience of going it and we're almost done. We're almost to the finish line now, right? And we're starting to get to use it. So instead of focusing on the issues that we had, like, I learned to focus on why we're doing it in the first place, the finish line, and staying there. So, like, spread the positive. Dude, there's they call it the news. Well, there's good news and bad news. The networks are going to give you the most of the bad because that's what sells for whatever reason.
Yep.
So be the good part.
That's it, man. That's the whole mission over here. Bringing light to what's going right. That's what we do. So, you're right, and I love that. It's we have very I mean, more times than not, these answers are not super different, but it's always important to kind of go back and just digest that. You know, it's not the easiest thing to do. I always say that too. It's not the easiest thing to do to be extremely grateful when something goes horribly wrong.
Your bad mood is a choice.
Yeah.
Like you just made the wrong choice.
Yeah.
You can choose to be in a good mood. Literally today, on the way out here, I was working crazy late last night, had a really early this morning, so a little bit groggy today. Yeah. So my workout was hard to push through and everything I did this morning. But so on the way out here, it was just like one of those things. It's like I can just do a couple breathing patterns.
There you go.
Take a sip of water, hydrate real good, and then just be like, I just made a choice. Like I'm excited to be doing this today.
That's real, man. I appreciate that.
You know what I mean? So it was literally a choice. And we were watching a show last night with my wife, and the woman had gone into protective custody where they have a new identity and stuff like that. So she's basically playing a character, and somebody from the past that really upset her to the point of like exhaustion. Came back, and she had to go back out to a birthday party and smile, and it was so cool because the actress did a great job. She literally like walked out there and just kind of like you saw her like close her eyes, and she went into that character mode and snapped into it. It was a choice. It was a choice to think about what you think about. You know, what should you be thinking about right now, and should you be thinking about that problem because you can't do anything about it right now versus maybe what's right in front of you and the gifts that are going to come from that. So that is a skill, but most importantly, it's a choice. So if you're having a bad day, change your mind. Just change your mind. Right. It ain't that hard.
Yeah, man, that's good. That's so good. I mean, yeah, it's everything. Gratitude, perspectives, choices, all this stuff, man.
Proximity is important too. You know, who you're around. Are you around negative people all the time? Are you around positive people all the time? If your feed on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or whatever is a lot of the stuff that, you know, people fighting and talking bad about each other and all that kind of stuff, like turn it off. Give yourself a fighting chance.
Yeah, that's so true. Man, I love my feeds these days, dude. I've been working to have, like, that's not on accident. And yeah, like to your point, you can definitely, it's really easy to find the latest and greatest traumas, dramas, scandals, controversies, all that, man. So
can I? So check it out. My son's been at church camp.
Let's go.
Watch this. He's gonna think this is so cool, dude. I'm on a podcast right now and we're recording. You're on the camera, bro.
Oh man. What's up, bud?
So, well, Ethan, you're on the podcast. I'm gonna call you back shortly. Okay. All right, buddy. Bye-bye.
That's awesome. That's great, man. Well, yeah, I don't want to. We could do this all day, man. Hopefully, we can do it again. I'm sure we can. I'd love. I mean,
well, I can't tell you how excited I am to be working with you guys and doing some stuff because again, everybody needs this stuff in what we do, and so we started out and it was like, who else is doing this kind of stuff, and how can we collaborate and like. Competition and collaboration, like there's a very thin line between the two of them, and collaboration is a choice.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And again, there's enough people out there that need this stuff that we can't serve them all, but together we might.
Yeah, exactly. I'm here for it all, man. I got one last question I always ask. It's called the Grateful For. 4 things you're most grateful for right now. What you got?
Well, so it's crazy because my core principles are our 4 F's.
Oh, well, I'll be dang.
Right.
There you
go. Faith, family, fitness, finance.
Wow.
Right. So I'm grateful, and they're in that order. So I'm grateful for my faith. That is my relationship with myself and my Savior. So when people say, you need to work on yourself, I feed my faith. Family. That's obviously you just met my son,
awesome, man.
Wife, daughter, but my extended family, my teammates. What am I doing to help them become better because they're always helping me grow. The fitness portion, it's not just the physical, it's also the mental, right? And what I've kind of figured out is a lot of my journeys in work and having a 14-year-old son, I'm trying to keep up, so obviously the physical fitness part became important, and I found out that I was in a better mood.
Yep.
I felt better and I could accomplish more with that. And then, obviously through through a lot of prayer and self reflection. I'm working on the mental fitness, and then finance. That's
Yeah.
finance from there, and that's the work and what we can give and the impact we can make in our community. So I'm grateful to have found those 4 F's and to be able to
4
feed
F's,
those
man. That's
opportunities every day.
That's beautiful. I love that. I'm gonna steal that probably.
Go for it. Go for it.
I love it, man. Well, Nick Hyder, everyone, absolute legend, doing some amazing work, and new family member here with all things STP. We are definitely in your corner, and anything we can do to help. It's all about furthering the mission, right? And we
That's
got a
right.
very very similar mission, if not the same thing, just with different words. So. Excited for what's to come. Thank you for your time, man. I know
Thank
you're
you.
extremely busy, man. So I appreciate your time and coming out to the borough, the distant land of the borough out here. But
Dude,
man,
this is great. This is a killer. I mean, this is a killer
yeah,
setup,
it
fellas.
really is.
Killer.
Tom thought of everything, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful space. The acoustics, man, it's top notch. So we're here to serve. Hey,
That's
come
right.
on down. Sign up for this accelerator program. Do the work to really have your show crafted, and just be a little more intentional with some of the stuff. I'm talking to myself right now if I'm not talking to anybody else, but I'm grateful for it all, man. Thank you. Excited for what's to come. Shout out again to Tom and to the team for pushing record for us today and hosting us in To the Moon Studios. But yeah, man, big things on deck. Thank you for everything.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Till next time.